Good morning, afternoon. Welcome back. Today, let's talk about some storytelling tips, which I found in a podcast episode of The Art of Charm with AJ and Johnny. They are the host. And the guest was David J.P. Phillips. He is an accomplished communication researcher and a famous TED speaker. And on the podcast, he gave two examples of a story, and he provides some tips that we can use to make our stories more interesting and engaging to our friends, our family, and our students. First, listen to this story.
I was at home, I was looking at the photos, and then I saw that, and then I panicked. I ran to the office, I came here, and then I got everything together, and now I'm here with you guys.
Okay, what did you think? I'll tell you what I think. It was so boring. When I think about stories that are boring and not interesting, oftentimes I don't feel any connection to the speaker. There's no emotion behind the story. It's just a linear list of data points, and there's no emotion or connection with the audience. Now, listen to a different story.
Okay, so imagine I'm at home, I'm sitting there with my kids, I'm looking through the photos, and I'm all like my empathy, and I'm feeling things for these photos, and then suddenly, the last thing you want in the world, the last thing, you get a phone call from the US. You go like, oh shit, something's wrong, something's up, I've missed something. You know that feeling of panic. So I tremble on my voice, I pick up the phone, and there's someone on the other side, and they go like, hey, where are you? And I'm like, oh crap, I've got to run. And I just run out of the house, I run over the yard, and what I don't know is, well, I'll come to that in just a moment. I run over the yard, I come in, I rig everything up, and the terrible part about all of this is that when I sit down, I've got all this stuff up, and I think, okay, we're going to go live now. You guys, you want me to turn on my video camera, and hey, do you see what I look like? This is not my professional me, but sometimes you just have to play the game, right? So I'm sitting here now, and it's brilliant. Thanks for having me. It is such a pleasure seeing you. Thanks.
I find this version of Philip's story much more engaging for three reasons. For one, in this story, Phillips is much better at setting the frame. Like a picture frame, setting the frame in a story means drawing the audience into your world, setting the context. It really helps build rapport with the listeners. One magical word to set the frame when telling a story is imagine. When you set the stage, try to use different details and descriptions so that the audience really understands your world and the context in which you're telling a story. Listen again to how Phillips sets the frame for his story.
Okay, so imagine I'm at home, I'm sitting there with my kids, I'm looking through the photos, and I'm all like my empathy, and I'm feeling things for these photos, and then suddenly,
in addition to setting the frame, Phillips takes a lot of effort to inject emotion into his story. Human beings tend to connect based on our feelings and our emotions, not necessarily based on a list of facts. So Phillips takes a lot of care to talk about what he feels in certain moments of the story. Listen to these instances now.
You get a phone call from the US. You go like, oh shit, something's wrong, something's up, I've missed something. You know that feeling of panic. And the terrible part about all of this is that when I sit down, I've got all this stuff up, and I think, okay, we're going to go live now.